We decided as a group that what we really needed was a video that would help describe the depth in which we're going with immigration. It's more than just the topic of immigration. That is, of course, a very important part of what we're talking about. We're trying to highlight all these perspectives relating to immigration so that you, the viewer, or reader, in the case of the rest of the blog, can see that immigration has many different facets, and it's up to you to decide what you see as important. And that's the key there. It's up to you. We believe that there should be a personal connection between you and the source. That the source should impact you in a personal way that makes you question it. If something connects you indirectly, indirect kind of associates with a fact. A fact doesn't have an emotion to it. A fact is a fact. So if you portray a source in an indirect way, you kind of push it towards being taken as fact. Whereas if you give it a personal connection, people are going to question it. It's human nature. We're not going to trust what you're saying just because you said it. So what we're trying to do here is give you that. We want to give you that personal connection, because what it does is minimize bias by making it blatant and obvious. The problem that we face today is that many news sources don't come out and say they're biased. I mean, sure, you can analyze it and figure out which side they lean to, but they indirectly sway you in a certain direction. And that indirect quality where they're never really talking directly to you. They're talking either within themselves about what they've seen, or they're talking to another individual about what they've seen and their opinions, whether they agree or disagree. All these different things, but none of them are personal to the viewer or the reader. It's all indirect, which gives this false feeling of fact, which it may be true, that happens, but you have to question it. You have to find out for yourself whether it is true or not by looking in other places. You cannot guarantee that what they're saying can actually be taken as a fact. So what we want people to do is recognize the bias in the source that they're viewing and try and look somewhere else to see if someone disagrees with them, or if they bring up a point that really connects with you, something that you, from other experiences, other knowledge, can take to heart and realize this other person was wrong, or they were almost there but they missed a point. So you can develop your idea into something more whole, something more true, until you get to something that's so close to the truth that the difference between the bias, the slight untruth that lies in opinion, goes to the wayside. What you have is something that is truth enough to be considered a fact. Like, this is the situation. Because what you did was take what someone said, question it, find what someone else said, maybe answer some of the questions that you had here, but then question that source, and go down the line, continuing this process until you can't question anymore, or the questions that you're asking aren't relevant. And so what you end up with is this form, all these sources put together, all this analysis and synthesize. You've synthesized all this information into one truth. And that's great. That's what we want. We want this truth. And that's what we're doing here. We want to make sure that people realize that there's bias in everything. Everything. You can't get rid of it. It exists. It's impossible to get rid of bias. That's why I said you get as close as you can to the truth. There's always going to be that little bit of bias that gets in the way, but you have to do all that you can to minimize it. And what we see today with different news sources is they're throwing their bias at people in this way that makes them rely on them, pulls them in, and they focus solely on them, or they focus only on a couple sources, to where they get a very skewed vision of what may or may not be the truth. And this is a huge problem, because what we have are people unaware of the fact that they don't know the truth. And that's scary. Knowing that some people believe they know the truth, but in fact may not. They may be believing in something that is completely false, but because a couple sources said it and corroborated with each other, they believe it. And with this project, this immigration project that we're doing, how we're looking at different aspects of immigration from different views, we're trying to give you all of these sources to question, to look at, see which ones agree with each other, which ones disagree, why they do such things, until you come to this conclusion that is so very close to the truth that you can consider it a fact. That's what we want. That's what's needed. And that's why we made this video.